Welcome to the Haven Podcast, a show where we take a deeper look into the realms of dating, marriage, relationships, and intimacy with thought-provoking guests who bring fresh, real, and unique perspectives and experiences to the conversation. We're here to bring you insights, practical advice, and deeper understanding you've been looking for. Now, here's your host, Brianna.
Jump in, tell us who she is, and tell us all about how the process or her journey to getting to the place of building her confidence up. And Laine, thank you for joining us, and the floor is now yours.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Laine D'Souza, and I was born in Hong Kong, and then I have an English mom and a Indian Portuguese father. So growing up in Hong Kong was very different, I would say, but it was, for me, it was all I knew. But growing up in Hong Kong, I was exposed to lots of different cultures. People at our school were half Portuguese, half Chinese, half this, half that. And so we had this very big mix of culture growing up. And so you would think that I would feel at home because I never felt different in my skin like that. But I did struggle in school. I was dyslexic, and I just found studying very, very hard. I do think that I did not have good basics and foundations in the teaching that I had. And also I didn't know how to apply myself. And then dyslexia made it twice as hard. So I would get made fun of a lot. If we had to read in class, I would literally sweat. I would wake up with such anxiety, beg my parents not to let me go to school, cry. I say, I'll go to the dentist. I'll do anything. Anything was better than going to school. And I would hide. I would have a nervous stomach. Just because I was terrified. And I would always wake up when I was younger with this like feeling in my stomach, a nervous feeling. And I always used to think, is it because I'm prepared? Like, what's going on later in life when I try to figure out why I had that melancholy, that turning in my stomach. And, we'll come back to what I really discovered that was, but I would have that guide me a lot through my life. But I turned to sports, and I just happened to have a talent for sports. And that was where I kind of excelled. And when academics kind of failed me, I could always turn to sports, and that was my thing. So, but when I went through school playing sports and stuff, and then when I got to Olympics I got to try out for the Olympics for the sport I was playing, and I didn't get in. And I think I had all my confidence, all my idea of who I was as an athlete. And when I didn't get in, it felt like I wasn't good enough. And that I wasn't good enough was a theme throughout my life. I wasn't good enough at reading. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't something enough. And that was the theme throughout my life. And the outside world was just confirming that when I didn't get into the Olympics. And so for me, that was a real hard hit. And then I tried to get into a dance school, and I didn't get in. And that was another hard hit. So it kind of like life was just kind of showing me what I was believing about myself, that I wasn't good enough. And then I went to college, and I was just choosing bad guys. Like I would be attracted to this bad guy that wasn't available, that wasn't mature, that wasn't wanting the same things as me. And like literally go from traumatic experiences where it was like all in to like them going and like going with my best friend in front of my face, and just being not able to handle that. And I literally couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. And my mom came to see me, and I think I was like 90 pounds. So I couldn't keep anything in my stomach. And that was the anxiety that would lead me through my life. And she was like, oh my gosh, we got to get you fed up, eat some food. And my roommate at the time brought this dog home. And these dogs are like spiritual angels. Like this dog literally saved my life. I couldn't get out of bed, and the dog made me get out of bed because she needed to go to the bathroom. And I would take these walks on these hills, and I felt like the wind was pushing me, and it was like God reminding me, I got hands on your back, pushing me up the hill. And there were all these things when I look back at my life, and just moments where I feel like confidence is not something that you are born with. I think it's something that's cultivated, and it's that tiny voice. It's a mixture of that tiny voice in your ear that says, "I got you. You can do this. You can do hard things. You're okay." And that's our divine part of us. And then it's the other part, when you actually see your outside circumstances, like you do a hard thing and you overcome yourself, and you're like, "Oh wow, I did it." Because that can't be taken away from you. So I think it's a mixture of the two, of building confidence. And I do believe when we believe something about ourselves so strongly that we aren't even aware that that's what we're thinking, life is going to bring that to us.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I want to ask you. I want to back up a little bit. So
Yeah.
when you were growing up and you were going through your struggles with your learning and then feeling the way that you were feeling, how were your parents supporting you during those times?
Oh, so it's funny because my parents are like the most amazing parents that you could have. Like, my mother is a very stoic English lady, but she was always tough love, like taught me to be strong and resilient. Like, if I didn't get something, okay, like buck up, let's go. Are you almost like, and she was a nurse, so she's like seen a lot of stuff. She'd be like, "Are you dying? No, let's go," kind of thing. And that made me very resilient. Whereas my father's very loving, very nurturing, very kind. It was a brilliant mixture. So my home life wasn't something that I came out of saying, "Oh, I didn't have a mom," or these terrible stories of that. Mine was more, I really got tortured at school. Like, I literally was made fun of, and I didn't have the strength. And my parents, being so kind and almost naive, didn't kind of prepare me for the world in the way that there is hard people and you've got to have a thick skin. So when I went into the world, I just didn't know how to deal with life in a way. So it was almost the opposite. Like, too much love can kind of spoil the child in a way. I think I had that kind of ideal, and I just didn't have a thick skin. I didn't know how to deal with people teasing and bullying, and it was all about being smart or not, you know? So yeah, my home life wasn't the issue for me. It was more like external circumstances and life that made me kind of doubt everything.
Okay. And so then you're in college. So do you believe that, because when you said it was something you said, when you had an experience where your boyfriend actually went with your best friend in your face. So
Yeah.
that stuck out to me because I'm like, well, wow. So your confidence really did inform how you related to people in as far as friendships. So 'cause normally we don't call, like, you wouldn't be my best friend, honey, going with my man, not
Yeah.
mine. So it's like, so your confidence really informed your friendships, and they were
Yeah.
the best people for you.
Of course. And I believe that that's how you see yourself. So you pick people on your vibration level. So I wouldn't do that myself to somebody, but if I can't stand up for myself, how can I expect my boyfriend or my friend to stand up for me? Like, I have to have that quality in myself. So I started attracting people that didn't, because I didn't have it in myself. And also, like, that kind of loyalty and betrayal was something that really shook me deep. And the fact that that day I said, I feel like, that intuition. And I said to her, I feel like you're with, my boyfriend. I feel like you're with him. She was like, "No, you're my best friend." And it was that jealousy that I felt from her, but that, like, you just, like, I was too naive. I did not want to believe the signs. And I also wasn't listening to my divine intuition that would have, and I didn't have the confidence to say, "Girlfriend, like, you're not my friend. And how dare you?" But also, it's a tangled web, because we want to blame the outside people, but it's also something, if we never take responsibility for our part in it, then we can't heal. And honestly, I could say that they betrayed me. But honestly, I was betraying myself by choosing these kind of people to represent who I wanted to be around and surround myself with. So I can't really blame them, because really that was the lesson that I needed to learn for me to understand that I need to have these qualities for myself if I want other people in my life to demonstrate them.
I think that's really good because we all have to mature to that place where we understand that it's always the answer always lies within us. And
Mm-hmm.
so people can only do to us what we allow them to do. And we have to get to the place of asking ourselves, well, why would I allow this type of person? Why would I allow this type of character, a person, to be in my space and then be so close to me? So I think
Yeah.
that's really important for people to know because it is such a place where people want to, especially women, want to blame.
Mhm.
It's you because you understand who this person is. You
Yeah.
chose to be, and we just talking about friendship. So of course it would go to men as well, or whatever romantic relationship you find yourself in. So if you pick your friends like that, most definitely you're gonna pick your romantic partners like that as well.
And I do think, when we're growing up, I don't know how any of us survived middle school because there's so much pressure in that. But I didn't have that strong sense of boundaries and self when I was growing up in middle school. And I see that now because I have a daughter and I see a lot of that in that age group.
Mhm.
And if I could give that gift to my daughter now or go back and give it to myself when I was that age, not to abandon what you really want or what you believe in, and that your body is sacred,
Mhm.
to abandon that part of yourself for somebody else's love or somebody else's acceptance or somebody else's, you know, because you don't want it to feel yucky in that moment. And you're like, I don't want to rock the boat, or I don't know how to deal with their anger, or whatever it is, that gaslighting that comes back at you, to be able to stand strong in what you believe and what you want. Because abandoning yourself in those moments is so much worse than someone abandoning you, because at the end of the day, it's you and you're
Mhm.
dating yourself. And if you can't see that, okay, like, I need to stand up for myself, and that's a learning. Like, some people are born with that strength and they will not abandon themselves, and other people, you have to find that. And sadly, it's lessons learned, it has to be. And then you have to go back and forgive yourself for those lessons
Mhm.
that you had to learn, because sadly, that's what you needed, unfortunately. And it can be very toxic and very sad, but
Mhm.
there's a forgiveness for yourself, a grace and the situation, and almost like a gratitude for the lesson. Not that you would ever want that lesson to reoccur again, I'm not saying that, or that trauma, but the gratitude for that. Thank you, I got it. And I do think that life has a funny way of kicking us in the butt over and over again until we actually get the lesson that it's trying to teach us. And
Mhm.
there's so much, like, divinity in that, because we're like, why is this happening? Why is this? We want to question. And instead of having faith that there is a greater force working for us and leading us,
Mhm.
and if we could just look at the situation, the circumstances, and learn from it, then we don't have to keep repeating that lesson.
Mhm.
My dad is very sweet. He would say something like, you this boy that had her broke my heart, but why did he do that? And I was stuck on why. And my dad said, if someone came up into the street and he robbed you, you wouldn't sit in the street and be crying, why did this happen? You would grab your bags and you would move forward. And I think that I got kind of paralyzed a lot with my emotions, and not understanding these big feelings and how um to be able to move through them and let them go and give grace to myself in those moments.
Mhm.
So that's also been a process. And then, that feeling that I talked about earlier, with that melancholy, that nervousness, like, I needed to be in situations that made me feel like that,
Mhm.
because that's what I was comfortable with. And so I would seek out these men that would give me a nervous stomach, or that I would not trust, or I would feel that. And it's because that's what my body was used to when I was little, that nervous, unprepared feeling, that kind of chaos and trauma. And I'm not sure where it came from. I just know that I had it. And I did find that I went to New York after college on this search for healing. And
Mhm.
it's not like I was even broken, but I always felt like there was something wrong and I needed to get out of my brain. And why? And I went to New York and I did a lot of searching and worked with a lot of different modalities of healing. And I did somatic healing, which, I did a lot of yoga, I did therapy, I did act therapy, I did a lot of things. And I think that what was interesting to me is my mind would be like this,
Mm-hmm.
racing. And people are like, okay, you have to meditate. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't. Like, it would bring up too much for me. Or I just couldn't sit still. My mind was, and I was like, I'm not doing this right, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it was about moving my body
Mm-hmm.
to be able to have like a moving meditation to put me in that place where I could sit. And that's where the somatic healing and the nervous calming the central nervous system down was way more powerful for me first than just going to therapy and talking, because that would just frustrate me, or trying to do like just a sitting meditation. So the somatic healing was into my body, like Reiki and things like that, that actually helped me calm my central nervous system and be able to like be present and ground my feet and realize that I can have a relationship or a conversation with you, and we are two separate people, not that my energy would melt into yours and I would have to take on what you're giving me, and then that would ruin my day. If you were yelling at me, I would be like, oh. I realized that from that somatic healing, like my energy is mine,
Mm-hmm.
and yours is yours, and we can meet and we can have a conversation. I don't have to be emulsed into you. And so that was very powerful for me, one way that really worked for healing. And then I also, because after I went to New York, I got in a very bad situation, even worse than that, with a man that actually took me to court, and was for years like telling me, very controlling, you have to come back to New York, because I kind of fled from New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that God literally geographically picked me up and put me in a different place, because it was like a drug for me. I was addicted
Mm-hmm.
to this chaos and trauma bond with this man.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I wouldn't, like it's very easy to look at someone and be like, why is this woman still going back to this man?
Yes.
Why? Like, he beats her, or he's so rude to her, or he
Mm-hmm.
treats her like crap, or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
on the outside, you don't see that there's a trauma bond between these people, and the brain starts coming into that. And you, from the outside, you're like, you just can't understand this. But one of my therapists actually taught me, like, you put a frog in boiling water, it's going to jump out. Put a frog in warm water and turn up the heat gently, and it just slowly bubbles to death. So it's like things that I would never accept originally
Mm-hmm.
became normal for me, and a way of like my sense of myself, my sense of what I would accept. My standards started going down and down and down, and eventually I started questioning, who was it me? Am I crazy? Am I bipolar? Is there something wrong with me? Like because of the abuse and the way that I was being treated, or allowing myself to be treated, was had me questioning everything. I didn't even know. I got to the point where I was so lost. And I felt like emotionally paralyzed. And that sounds so dramatic, but I really did. People like, leave. I would leave and I would come back. And they would be like, oh, I lost a lot of dear friends from that, because they just couldn't watch the person that they loved keep putting their hand in an oven and being like, I'm burnt. And they just didn't understand. And I didn't understand at the time. I was like, what is wrong with me? And once you start to realize that there's nothing wrong with you, it's a trauma bond, and that you can rewire your brain, just like you can build a bicep, but it takes practice, it takes work, it takes time. You can heal yourself. And also having that person on your team, like finding a counselor or a therapist or a trainer, anyone that is someone that believes in you when you can't believe in yourself at that time, because that's how it was. I literally couldn't believe in myself, but I found a therapist, and we did a lot of ACT therapy, which is acceptance-based therapy, cognitive-based therapy. And she believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. And I think that that's really, really key. And we did a lot of work, and I said, I don't want to sit here and talk. That just can't help me. I want to do the work. And so we did a lot of work on schemas and trying to see how your brain works, and so I could heal this situation and not keep repeating it. And I think that what was really powerful for me was the image of, you can't tidy up your room if your brain is your room. You can't, and it's a mess, and the lights are out. You can't clean your room up in the dark. You got to put the lights on first, and then you'd be like, oh, sweaters are here, leggings are here.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's all over. So I gotta sort it out first. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's how our brain is. Like, we can't, until you have the awareness that you're even thinking these thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not good enough, or I'm not enough, or whatever the thought is, that you aren't even aware that it's that deep in your belief system.
Mm-hmm.
You can't change it. So just becoming aware is the first step, that, oh, I'm thinking that. And then it's amazing when you start to see that these thoughts are what you have lived your life and created your whole external life from.
Yes.
And we can say, oh, wait a minute, that I'm not going to choose that thought. I am with it. I am. And at first it feels so foreign. It feels like vinegar in your mouth. Like, oh, I'm worthy. Or I don't think that, like the denial. And it's tricky. It wants to trick you, because that's what it is. Whether you want to call it the devil, or however you want to put our belief systems,
Mm-hmm.
it's so strong that it takes a lot to kind of octopus it out.
Oh yeah.
And untangle it, and it's an everyday process and a constant process,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to be back in touch with your true essence of who you really are, and the sense of your real self.
Yeah,
And that's sorry.
Yeah, and because I think that this is really good, because a lot of people don't realize, as grown people now, that they are really living in what I call like this constant cycle. And you feel like you build yourself up, but then you find yourself crashing again.
Mm-hmm.
Then you build yourself up, then you crash again. And you can tell within the choices that they're making, life choices that they're making, and it's like you're choosing so below of who you really are, but because you believe that's all you deserve, you keep
Right.
choosing below. I had someone ask me, they said, well, how do I get these thoughts to stop coming to me? And I said, how they tell you to do these affirmations in the morning. I said, sometimes it's a matter of literally looking at yourself every day and saying, I am worthy.
Mm-hmm.
I am, who God says I am. I am the head. I'm
Right.
the tail. I am the daughter of the Most High God. And I said, you
Right.
have to program your mind to have
Yes.
those thoughts to replace the negative thoughts that keeps coming to you, regardless
Right.
of
And
where it came
that's so,
from.
it's
That's
so
not what you're
true.
going to be able to do. You have to unlearn these things. We
Yeah.
say spiritually, we say, you got to bring every thought into every
Root.
thoughts rising itself up against the knowledge of who God is into captivity. But literally, that's what you're doing. You have to bring them into captivity, because that's not who you are. And I think if we could catch young girls in middle school and teach them that during those pivotal years, because that's when the body chemically is going through these changes, and they don't know what to do with these emotions. They don't know why. They have this desire to want to be friends with. I want to be liked. I want to be popular. I want to feel like I'm with the in crowd, but it's because of all these things that we go through, and we go through them again. When we start menopause,
Right.
the
And
same
it's a
thing
different
again.
stage. Exactly. Yeah, it's true. And there's no guide really to tell anyone, like, why am I having these feelings? Why are men looking at me like this? Why is that? Like, why do I feel these things that I'm feeling? And why do I need to be accepted? Because when you don't be, you get teased. So then, like, you get teased to be different. But then when you leave school, you want to be different. So it's like this weird cycle of finding yourself. But that grounding is really important that you speak of. And I think that again leads to making the choices that make up our life. And it's funny because you say the affirmations, but I had another coach that called them conscious self creations. So we would look in the mirror, and it felt weird, but if you didn't feel like like I felt like dyslexic, so my whole thing is I'm dumb or I'm not smart enough. So mine it's just doing the opposite, and at first it feels so silly, and you're like, I am smart. I am smart. I am a wonderful businesswoman, or I am whatever your the feeling is that you don't feel of. You just flip it, and it's I am, always I am, because you're talking about the present. And those thoughts, like you said, are like a pathway, And the more you walk on, on a trail, you see the pathway that's been built. It's the same in our brain, the way that our synapses work. If we keep walking that path, we start to believe that. So anything that and sometimes those beliefs we aren't even conscious of. So it's like practice makes progress. Honestly, it's like building a muscle, like a bicep. You're not going to get a bicep from doing one curl, right? Like it's being consistent with it. And the same with our mental health and those thoughts with the cognitive thinking. And it really truly is so many of us want to jump the steps like I did, like why is this happening? It's so yucky, let me get out of it, instead of being like, okay, let's just see that it feels yucky and build some capacity. Like I'm not going to send, as I'm just talking in relation to physical fitness because that's my job, but I'm not going to send a new person that walks in and say, okay, we're going to go run 3 miles, 5 miles today. It's the same with my thinking, right? Like we're so like, I want it to stop. I can't make it stop. I don't want, is there something wrong with me? And it's like, we've got to build capacity and calm and practice. Like first it's going to feel yucky. And we might be sore after a workout. It's the same with our mental health too. And I do believe that exercise honestly is a gateway drug because it does teach, it does so much for the hormones in your brain and your body, but it also teaches you to have faith because you're doing these things without getting immediate satisfaction or results. So it's teaching you to have faith, and it's also teaching you consistency because you're going to do it like hopefully more than one time. But that's the same thing with our brain. We can train our brains, we can train our body. And that is what's so pivotal and key about making choices for ourselves, because we don't have to stay in a bad relationship. We don't have to stay stuck at night drinking alcohol or taking drugs, or we don't have to, overeat or whatever it is that we're feeling really that we have no control of. We do, but it takes time. Like it doesn't just happen. Some people, yeah, sure, they quit smoking cold turkey. They're the rare anomalies. But what we forget is the process, and we should start to fall in love with the process as opposed to the results, right? Like I would not say, oh my God, I want to, like at the time when I'm in it, I want to be out of this, make it stop. But now when I look back, I see that it's such a process, healing, self-acceptance, giving yourself grace and mercy, all of these things. It takes time. Like you can't do it overnight. Like you can't get a 6-pack overnight, like it just doesn't happen. You can't build lung capacity to go run a marathon overnight. These things take time. And just like our mental health, it really takes time to even see what's going on in your brain from all of your experiences, all your childhood, what your trauma is, to understand, okay, this is what we're looking at. Now, this is the predominant thought that leads me. How do I kind of flip it? How do I jujitsu it? And it's a process.
And I always talk about processes because in that process, you're really building up your confidence, because each step you take forward to the end, to get to the end result, you start feeling good about yourself, right? And so if I'm having in processes, you really do, because you're disciplining yourself like in exercise. And so the more you're disciplining yourself, the more you're fighting to discipline yourself in this thing. Once you get to the end result, it's like I wish I would turn back around, because I had to fight to stay in the process. I had to fight to get here. And so I had to fight to get to me. And because I had to fight to get to me, I'm going to stay here. But a person who tries to skip, they're not going to have lasting results. You might get to the end, but you're not going to stay there. You're going to have to stop, because you can't miss any step. And it's so pivotal especially for your self-esteem, your self-confidence, the building up of who you really are and your value system, and being able to stand on your value system and not betraying yourself.
Yeah, what you said is so good too, because honestly, when you said that, I had to fight for myself. If it's that part of you that does have to fight for yourself, and we want to say, oh no, love, peace, but fighting for yourself, there's a resilience in you and a warrior in you that has to come out, because if you can't fight for yourself, no one can. If you can't pull yourself up, no one else can.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's coming to save you. No one else can do it for you. You have to make that choice, and you have to know that you're better than where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that tiny voice. It might even be so small, barely audible, a whisper that tells you you're a divine human, like it's okay, you're not this person, or you are good, you have a good heart, you're a lover, whatever it is, that is the point. It might be this big, but you have to fight for that. And sometimes fighting for it looks different for everyone. But you're right, once you've overcome yourself, and I mean the part of you that makes the bad choices, the part of you that keeps you stuck, or the part of you that says it's hopeless, once you can overcome that in one little area, a win is a win. Even if that's a choice. Today I'm not going to believe this in this moment. It's moment by moment. Sometimes I'm not gonna smoke a cigarette at this moment. 10 minutes later, I'll deal with it. But this moment, you've overcome yourself. And that, what you're saying, is the confidence too. It's the mixture of that inner voice that believes in you, and then making it, starting to build it so it's louder and you don't betray it. And that outer circumstance of overcoming yourself, even if it's one moment at a time. And then you build up from that moment, and slowly it becomes a minute. And then slowly it becomes a day. And then when you get, derailed, it might be 10 days before you get back on track. But then slowly, the more you practice it, your derailment is like 2 days, 1 day. And then you'll start to catch it. Oh, if I do that, I'm going to start to feel like that. And I don't want to feel like that anymore.
Yes.
So I'm going to choose differently. And like you said, that's a process. Like, you can't skip that step. If you skip that step, you don't know. And you haven't, there does have to be a sense of going to war for yourself. Almost.
Oh yeah. And I think, I know that even during that process, one of the hardest things that people have to face is the fact that they have to let people go. There are some people that has to be let go of because they're not conducive for where you're going, for the new you. Some people are conducive for the broken you, but they're not conducive for the whole you, because they can't handle the whole you, because wherever they're at in their life's journey, they continuously break you in some area of your life. You're saying I am, but they're telling you you're not.
And they show you that you're not. And then you keep choosing that because you don't want to leave them or lose them. And it's funny because when I was in the situation in New York, I had a dear friend that was like a sister to me. She was a big sister, and I loved her. We would make smoothies together. Like, I just spent my whole time on her Brooklyn apartment couch. And when I chose this person that I was with, she tried to tell me, no, he's not good for you. But there was this attraction that was so dark and deep and trauma bond that pulled me. And every time I tried to get away from him, I would go to her. And she sat me down one day and she said, what if I told you this was happening to me? What if I told you John is doing this to me? And I was like, oh my God, I would tell you, run for the hills, run. But when it's me, I'm like, oh, I can do it for myself. Now, here's the weird thing. She let me go. And at the time, it felt like a breakup. It felt like a breakup, losing that person. So I'm just seeing it from the other side. Like, I was the one she had to let go. And I still, to this day, it hurts my heart. But I'm not that person anymore. But she does not know that. She's moved on in her life. But there's those connections that you love someone so much. And sometimes you're the one that they have to let go because you're so toxic, you can't see it. And now, this 20 years later, I'm in a situation where I have a sister that I love, not just a dear friend. And she keeps choosing this man that is just she betrays who she is. What he does is irrelevant. She betrays who she is and what she wants and what she desires and what she deserves for herself every time she chooses him. And it goes on, and she's living in chaos. She's a mess. She can't focus. She can't do this. He's constantly putting down blah blah blah. And I had to let her go. I had to say, I can't watch you do this anymore. I don't have to jump in this boat with you. I'm here for you. When you choose to love yourself and you choose to get out of the chaos and to choose yourself, I'm with you. And I just can't be on that process with her because it's not helping her. I'm literally giving her the drug by staying with her. I'm like the drug dealer to her. So at that point, I'm the person that my friend was to me. And so isn't it funny how the circle comes back to you? where you have to be the strong one and you have to sacrifice your friendship for someone that you love so dearly and step away. And that's part of codependence, which is why we choose to be in relationships with people that are very bad for us, because we want to save them. For me, I wanted to save this guy. He was on drugs and I wanted to save him, and he and was a functioning alcoholic. And I just thought, if I can find your dad, it will be all right, because I had such love from a kid. But that's what kind of guided me to this situation. Like, I could show you, I could, and instead of choosing me and saying my and not in a selfish way, but choosing my sanity, my morals, my ethics for myself, I kept lowering them and lowering them and lowering them until this person literally took a boot and stamped on my heart and my spirit, and I was nothing, because I wanted to save them instead of choosing at some point myself and saying, this is not acceptable to me. I love you, but I have to learn to love you from afar. And that is exactly what you're saying, like fighting for yourself at some point.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think it's good. I think this conversation is so good because enrich, especially for our hearers, because one of the things that people find themselves in is where they are toxic. They are not choosing themselves. They're making all these horrible choices, and people begin to look and say, hey, enough is enough. And they start finding that people are walking away, or they themselves are the person who's finally got themselves together and they're having to let these people go. But whatever side you find yourself on, whether you're the one who is trying to be a friend to the one that is on has not gotten to the place of finding who they really are, understanding that the more that you stay to be a dumping ground, because that's all you are. They call you to dump on you because now they cannot contain no more. So I have to get it off of me, but I'm going back. I'm gonna go back because I'm not ready to go. And so then the friend finds themselves drained and, feel like they're hopeless. And it's like, the more you do that for that person, is called a scapegoat. I think they call that for those who deal with parents or loved ones who have alcoholics or drug addicts as family members. And as long as you continue to be that scapegoat for them, they never will get better. So to make the choice, that's really love in action. I love you enough to walk away, because right now you're not making sound, and I can't help you. I'm only hindering you. I'm only aiding you to stay where you're at. Because as long as you feel you can come over here and get a quick hug, I'm
enabling you. And you know what? Whether our drug is abusive human, that a narcissist, whatever, that's also like a drug, they're in drugs and you're trying to support them. Often so many people are in the relationship with the person that's addicted to drugs. The more, and like, it's so easy again to judge. Why do you give them money? Why do you do this? It's like, you can go to the other side and say, I don't want to wake up and find my daughter in the dumpster, the mothers who have children that are addicted to drugs. So like, it's very easy to sit there and be like, just don't give them money. But at the end of the day, it's again the trauma bond and learning what your role is in the situation. And that's what my therapist taught me too, because I want to be like, he took me to court, he did all these things to me, he la la la, and it was all him. And I had no sense of self. And she taught me, like, all you've sat here and done is tell me what he's done to you, what him. What do you want? And how do you feel? Like, stop talking about him. And she said something very profound to me at the end of one of our sessions. She said, until you take your part and your responsibility in this part of what this was created, you will never move on, and you will always attract the same kind of person, because you're not taking your responsibility. And I was so shocked. I was like, but it wasn't my fault, and blah blah. It was he was the one. Did this and he did that, and and really in his behavior, blah blah blah. But I enabled that behavior. I allowed it. I chose that. I stayed in that situation, and I allowed him to treat me the way that he treated me. That is my responsibility at the end of the day. And it's so hard to see that, because you're just like, he did this, he did that. You allowing that is your responsibility.
It's your responsibility. Because the thing about it is people are who they are, right? And so I'm gonna get mad because he or she is being who they are. I'm mad because they're being who they are. I'm mad because I choose to keep experience them as who they are,
Right.
knowing that their behavior, knowing that their character, knowing that their personality is a personality that hurts me over and over. Not only me, but others
Right.
people. And it's like I keep going back to it. It's like going.
Well, and that's the part of trying to control someone, isn't it? You can't control them. If they're going to go out and get drunk and come back, or they're going to talk to other girls, you can't control that. And trying to put that control on someone and say, you got to stay here tonight, you can't talk to this person, you are trying to control someone and change them, their choices. Now, if they're choosing that, then that's not the person for you. That person is not in alignment with what you want. A person that wants to talk to other girls in a relationship when you want to be in a one-on-one relationship, that's not the person for you. That person is not aligned and in the same direction as you. Now, you could be like, I'm going to wait for them to get healed. But if they just see that they don't need drugs, if I could just find their dad, if I could just heal them, I could just this, if I could just, and that's me again saying, I'm controlling this. I'm not in control. I can't save this person. I can't find their dad to make them feel loved. I can't, stop them talking to other women because they feel bad about themselves, whatever the reason is. But that's the controlling part of it, and not accepting people for who they are, or that they have to choose to get healed. Now, that's the same thing like looking at a chicken and wanting it to be a dog. Now, a chicken's always going to eat a grub, but a dog is going to go chew on a bone and be like, don't chew on the bone, like eat some vegan treats or something. A dog is a dog, and we want that person to be something they're not. And sitting there saying that I'll wait for them to get healed, you could be waiting your lifetime for them, and dealing with that behavior while they heal is not okay. Like, it's not okay for you when you start to realize that you won't compromise yourself because you fought for yourself again. And you won't ever go back there.
Right. And one of the most precious things that we have is time, and we can never get it back. So here it is, you've waited and waited and waited, and you realize that this person is not going to choose you, not in the way that you desire for them to. And here it is, it's 10 years later. You could have went and got your degrees. You could have been started your business. You could have been with the person you should have been with all this time. And
I know. But here's the thing, when you say that, right? Like, when you're actually in that moment, you're so obsessed. Like, you're stuck. And you're saying, oh, it's 10 years, but the years go by so fast. And you're like, 10 years later, like, this is exactly what happened to my friend. I said, you've been doing this dance for 10 years. She's like, no. I'm like, it's not, he doesn't make you feel how you want to feel, and you keep choosing that. Now, when you're in it, though, it's so, so hard to see that you're literally stuck and you're in this like mud and you don't even see it. And sometimes you like, I don't know what sometimes it takes something catastrophic and big to happen for you to be like, oh my gosh, my life has to fall apart for me to rebuild. Because when you're just staying in that situation, there's no way out. You're just in it. So I do feel like it has to break, the whole house has to burn down almost for you to be like, okay, now I'm at rock bottom, now what?
Oh yeah. And I want us to get into your book. But this conversation is so good because a lot of times with women that come into my office, they tell me their story, and and they're crying, and they just feel like they're not loved. And when you said that sometimes your whole world has to fall apart, I always let them know right at that point, wherever their world fell apart, or they feel like the rug was pulled out from up under them. I say, but God still held you in His hand, didn't He? Because you're here now. So the whole time you felt like you was unloved, He kept you, because you didn't make it, but you did, and because you did, that's His love for you.
And what you're saying is so true, because that's the part in having faith. that you had to go through that because he loves you, and he does have a greater plan, and he loves you, and he has greater things for you, but he couldn't give you the greater things because you weren't that person yet. He's building you to be the person you have to be. And to have faith in that, and almost gratitude and belief that there is something bigger for you, and there is something guiding you, and you had to go through that. And God has always got his hand on your back or holding you, however you want to say it, is hard to see because you're in it. But it's so true, because I do believe that these things happen to us so we can be reborn and be what the closer to the ideal of what God wants us to be, who we're supposed to be. And we're way more in alignment with our true selves when we can climb back out of that hole.
And it's the climbing out of the hole, and then being able to look back to help somebody else, right? So they don't have to go and spend as much time as we spent in a situation. We can see them, we can intervene with the strength and the knowledge and the wisdom that we have gained once we have gotten out, while we were in the hole and now we're out. And to be able to know when to have love, and a tough love, soft love that I'm gonna journey with you for a little while. I'm going to share my story. I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm going to tell you where you're going to end up if you keep choosing this, versus choosing the hand, because I didn't have a hand, but you do.
Right. And that's just what I said, having that person that believes in you and you don't believe in yourself. It's the same thing. Like, sometimes you just have to let that person have their process and their mistakes and their path. But like you said, I'm going to show you a different way if you want it, but you have to choose it. And you're going to make a mistake and you're going to fall, and then we got to learn from it, because there's no thing as mistakes. There's only lessons. So what did you learn when you went back? How did that make you feel? Oh, yucky. Okay. So let's not make ourselves feel yucky. You don't need to feel yucky anymore. Like, stop choosing that. When you do X, Y, it's going to make you feel yucky. So let's choose something else. And that's you getting your power back again, and your belief in yourself again. And it's right. You do have to have, I mean, not all people, but it's so beautiful when you do have that person that believes in you when you can't believe in yourself. And it's good. Interesting. Yeah. And, like, I just think you can't be reckless about your choices and your fearlessness. But there's a part of you that does have to kind of check the boundary with yourself, like, am I better? Can I make this? Can I do this? Or, and it's like, it's back to process, I think.
It is. And I think it's a lifelong process for us. I remember I came out of a bad
and when
situation.
you were saying, I think it's
I'm sorry. Our screens must have but I was saying
it just cut off a little bit.
Yeah, I had came out of a bad situation, and I remember sitting in a chair, and the Holy Spirit spoke to me. You have two choices: to be bitter or to be better. I never forget that. The Holy Spirit said, you're going to either be bitter or you're going to be better. Which one are you going to choose? And when I chose better, the process wasn't easy, but I was so glad of that process that I went through, learning how to choose me, learning how to make better choices, learning to even accept the hard corrections that I would get from older women that had been there, understood what I was going through. When they told me, okay, that's enough. You waddled in that enough. Now let's get up, wipe your face, and keep going. This is not a situation where you have to lay there. This is not a situation. It's not the time, to continuously talk about this. Let's move forward now.
Right. So it's very interesting that you say that too, because I remember when I got out of this situation and geographically got moved away from this person, because it was an addiction to me. I wasn't addicted to drugs. I was addicted to the feeling of this chaos. And I was on my mom's couch feeling very sorry for myself. And after 6 months, she was like, all right, that's it. get up, go get a job, and that's enough. And I was like, huh? And that tough love is what saved me. So I was like, well, so I went to the doctor, and I'm not a person that takes pills or anything unnecessarily. I went to the doctor and was like, you have to give me something. I'm paralyzed emotionally. I'm stuck. I don't know what's wrong with me. I need a brain. Like my brain, there's something wrong with my brain. And he was like, well, what's going on? I told him. And it was just a walk-in place.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, okay, you need to go get a job. You need to go make some friends, and you need to exercise again. And I was like, what? And that was the best advice that anyone could have given me. It was like, put your life back together.
Mm-hmm.
Start to put your life back together again. And it's funny because you do have to have that tough love and that discipline. When you don't have that discipline for yourself, you have to have someone giving you that discipline. And so you can start to tell yourself no, because we could tell a kid no, easy, no, you've had enough. But when it comes to us, we just kind of be like, okay. So sometimes you do have to have those boundaries and that discipline of someone holding a standard for you when you can't do it for yourself.
Yes, yes. So I want you to tell us about your book and tell us where we can get it from. I will have links in the description, so everybody, please go and support. So tell us about your book and where we can get it from.
So my book is really about it's entwined with self-confidence and learning how to do little exercises for self-confidence, mixed into my story of my childhood, and then also mixed into the world of fitness, because I worked in the fitness industry for so long. And that, exercise and muscle, skeletal muscle is really the key to longevity, and that exercise is your gateway drug. So it's kind of a mixture of all of those things, and how exercise is, like so many things, of healing, a process. So that is basically what it's about, and finding ourselves and believing in ourselves.
Now give us the title of it.
So it's called Confidence Unleashed.
Okay, good. Confidence Unleashed. And where can we get? Is it on Amazon?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Nobles, and I believe it's not in Barnes and Nobles. You have to order it, and also from the publisher, which is Words Matter Publishing.
Okay. Good. Well, we're excited. I got my copy, so I haven't started reading it yet, but I will start reading it over the weekend, and I'm excited. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Yeah, and let me know. And people can get hold of me on Facebook. I'm Laine D'Souza on Facebook, and then also on Instagram. So anyway, this was such a pleasure, and I would love for you to let me know what you think of the book.
I will. And we'll probably talk about it on one of the shows as well when I go through it, because I have a lot of women who love to exercise, right? For not just for their physical health, but for their mental health. So I think it will be a great piece to their collection. Now, if people reach out to you, do you do any fitness stuff online?
Yeah, so right now I'm running a challenge, and we're going into our second week of the challenge, but it's like nutritional guidance, and then we like also publish in the group. We publish workouts and hold each other accountable, and give like little tips, wellness tips about cold therapy, cold water therapy, and just things like that. So we run these challenges every so often. I also have a fitness app that people can get. It's called Ranch Fit. Yeah, so they can do an exercise by getting onto the fitness app. And we also have we have the website, which is WMRRanchFit.com. WMRRanchFit.com.
Okay, so all you listeners on here, summer's getting ready to come up, and if you're like me, you need to whip back into shape. And so we all need to go and download this app. I'm excited about it. This has been such a pleasure. We have learned so much. We have gained so much from you and your story and this conversation. It has been it's been.
I know it went very fast. I was going to say I have a podcast too where I just do little fitness tips. It's like it's 10 minutes at a time. Sometimes I'll interview people. I just interviewed a masters athlete who won the CrossFit Games, and she gives us lots of exercise tips. So that one's a good one. But yeah, this has been such a pleasure. I'm so privileged to have this conversation with you. It's been really sweet and beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you again. Please don't forget to look in the description to look up every link we're going to have for every app, some of us are going to join this maybe perhaps the next challenge, or just at least going in to get some tips, because this is, again, season for us to really get back into healthy eating and healthy bodies and things of that nature, because we do want to live long. We don't want to have diseases and things of that nature because we're not moving. But also, we're talking about physically, but also spiritually. So this is good. So everybody, please make sure that you share today's episode. Let us know how you like it. Let us know what you thought. Please write in your questions, comment below, and we will do our best to get back to you. And so again, Laine, thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate you. We love your spirit. We pray that God continues to just expand in every area of your life, and give you the desires of your heart, because you're such a sweet spirit. And so that is it for today. As always, I love you guys, and I'm always praying for you.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Haven Podcast with your host, Brianna. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe and share so that you never miss an episode.